Are the playoffs even a possibility with the shortcomings of the Angels front office? You know, the same front office that's supposed to help them get to the playoffs?
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Has the front office for the Angels and the coaching staff as well, have they done everything they can to help this team win? What options do the Angels have right now with the one we don't speak of that used to play third base for us? And would the Molina brothers be able to fix Logan O'Hoppe behind the dish? Before we get to all of that, let's thank our sponsor, Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year.
Happy Friday to you, and thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Hey, we've been hosts of Locked On Angels. This is our fourth season now as the host, talking Angels baseball with you Monday through Friday. Check us out wherever you listen to podcasts. Whether you're watching or listening, get in on the conversation by finding today's show on YouTube. Get in the comment section. While you're there, hit that like and subscribe button. Of course, you can always hit us up on social media at Locked On Angels, at Super Halo Bros, and come bowling with us at the second annual Logan O'Hoppe All-Star Bowl, Sunday, September 7th, coming up quick, 5 p.m. to 8:30 in Fountain Valley. We're raising money for the YMCA of Orange County. Get your ticket by clicking the link in the episode description down below and use the code Halo Bros to get yourself a discount on your ticket.
It's FanMail Friday here on Locked On Angels, and so you get to dictate where the show goes. And we're going to start with a voicemail from Sydney in Fort Collins, Colorado.
Hey, Mike and John. This is Sydney from Fort Collins, Colorado. Longtime listener, first-time caller. About Neto, extend him. I don't do math, so I don't have numbers, but extend him, please. O'Hoppe, consistent playing time. Last year was too much. This year's not enough. They got to find a middle ground for him. Now, my question for you guys is, the beginning of this season, we were talking sneaking into the playoffs, and we are so far from that now. We had all the pieces on the field to do it, but mismanagement happens, and it seems like every year we're falling apart by August. So, are playoffs even possible no matter who's on the field, as long as this team is fighting an uphill battle against the front office and the people who are supposed to be helping them? Thank you. Have a great day.
A great voicemail there from one of our favorite everydayers, Sydney. She's in our comments and always part of the conversation. So great to hear from you. Long time, first time. I love it. Also, I love the idea of, hey, about Neto, just get it done. I don't care about the money. I don't care about, Rendon on the books and all that stuff like we talked about the other day. It's just like, no matter all of that, get it done, right? Yeah. And I like that. I like that attitude right there. But
well, John, I think a thought on that real quick is this, that you have to prioritize the guys that are really helping this team to be different.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to talk a little bit about, the one we don't speak of in the next segment, but that's really the basis of that conversation is you got to give priority to the ones who aren't drama. Yeah. Aren't wasting your time, right? You need to give priority to that and stop giving priority to the ones that have been an anchor on this team for so many years.
Yeah, including that we don't speak of, and we will speak on him in the second segment. But Mike, the great question here is, are playoffs even possible when there's so many shortcomings from the front office? They're supposed to help get this team there. And here we are again in August going, well, now they're out of it again. And, for the 10th straight year. I want to address two parts of this, and I know you'll help me out with this too, but I think there's two parts to this answer, Sydney. And the first I'm going to bring up is the front office and management. They're definitely responsible for not doing everything they can to help this team win. And I think that goes in a number of directions. Obviously, payroll and talent on the field, right? Hey, you want a Corbin Burns or Matthew Boyd or maybe in like a Jack Flaherty? Well, you're going to get Kyle Hendricks, right? Because he's a veteran and he can help out the guys, right? I remember when we signed him, you and I were like, okay. And, it took a couple days to go, all right, maybe it's not that bad, but the truth is that's what we got. What if Nolan Shawnuel needs a day off or gets hurt? Well, we'll we'll figure that out when it happens.
Hmm.
Maybe Kevin Newman can play over there. I don't know. The coaching staff, Mike, I think is a big problem of it. The one size fits all approach from Johnny Washington earlier this season, and I think kind of throughout the season, that trust the process attitude where it's like, hey, nothing we're teaching is wrong. The guys just have to stick to the plan, and eventually it'll work. Eventually it'll work, right? And that's on the coaching. What I mentioned before, payroll and talent on the field, that's front office. But also, what about like the minor leagues in terms of the lack of ready now prospects who are on the verge to come up and help this team? Certainly pitching is one of those areas that they could have pulled from, and they have with Caden Dana and Sam Aldegari, but not in the rotation, the bullpen, right? And I think the big issue there was, what are they doing in the bullpen? You and I don't buy into the conversation that all these guys are ruined and they'll never be able to pitch in the majors again because they were in the bullpen one time and they got beat up. No, it's more of they're starters. So put them in the rotation if you're going to need a starter. So that is certainly one of those things. And then, a big thing, this obviously competitive team, quote unquote, not getting the obvious competitive players they needed at the trade deadline. Look, I have loved Andrew Chafin for a long, long time, wanted him on our team 3 years ago, right? And he's been great for us. Don't get me wrong. Even Luis Garcia has been great for us. But if they thought they could compete, they certainly didn't do enough. And the other side of that is, if they had just decided they couldn't compete, like you and I and most of our fans and everydayers saw, and most Angel fans saw, then they should have sold at the trade deadline. And then regarding management, how many times are they going to roll out the same lineup card day after day after day after day with Mike Trout in the third spot, who's obviously struggling, obviously having issues? You'd move anybody out of the third spot if they were struggling, but for some reason they don't do that with Mike Trout, right?
Yeah. And the second part of the question was the talent not living up to their previous seasons. That's really what's happening this year. Now, Sydney mentioned, John, that you said that the Angels had the potential of sneaking into the playoffs at the beginning of the year. The big reason for that is because they dropped a lot of under league average guys. They're carrying a lot of guys that just weren't baseball players on this team. And if the Angels just got league average performances from their guys, I'm convinced, and you're more convinced, that the Angels could have gone a lot further this year. Let me give you a few examples. Rengifo, Soler, Newman, and Ohapi. They're all under league average hitting right now. The OPS the OPS plus for Rengifo in 2024 was 116. John, it's 77 this year.
Yeah, which means he was
player, right?
He was 16% over league average last year. This year, he's 23% under league average. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's Jorge Soler, had a 123 OPS plus last year. This year, 88. So he's regressed. He's not been good. Kevin Newman, had a 90 last year. Let me be clear. That's not great, but he is a backup, right? They signed him just to be a backup. But this year, John, before they let him go, 33.
Yeah.
OPS. 33, right? Yeah. I mean, it feels like that episode of Seinfeld when they're talking about the IQ. 85, Jerry. 85. 33. And then Ohapi had 100 OPS plus last year, 83 this year. And then it continued with the pitching staff, right?
Yeah. Tyler Anderson, Kyle Hendricks, Jack Kohanowitz, they're all under league average pitching-wise, coming off seasons last year where they were certainly doing better. Now, in terms of ERA plus, remember, over 100 is above league average, under is a certain percentage under league average. Tyler Anderson last year, despite his bad second half, 109, Mike. So 9% better than league average. This year, 89. Kyle Hendricks, now to be fair, he was injured last year. He had a 67. He's up to an 83 this year, better than last year because he was hurt, but still not league average. And then Jack Kohanowitz, 104 last year, and this year a 62 ERA plus. So all you were asking was for those guys to just be league average. Nobody needed you to be great. Nobody needed you to be outstanding. Nobody needed you to be a superstar. And if those guys had just been league average, and you combine that with the seasons of like Joe Adell and Taylor Ward and Nolan Shawnoel, Zach Neto, maybe you combine that with Soriano and Kikuchi and the decent bullpen that they've had for most of the year, you'd be in much better shape. But many of those guys just got worse and didn't even meet the bare minimum expectation of what they could do. Again, You bring in Soler, you don't expect him to be under league average when you trade for him, especially when he had such a great season of production last year. So it's really frustrating. I mean, the big question here is like, what stopped these guys from being at least league average? Maybe it's the coaching. Maybe it's being another year older. Maybe it's the hitting approach, the pitching approach. Maybe it's Ron Washington getting sick. Maybe it's Ray Montgomery and his analytics. Maybe it's Johnny Washington telling them to trust the process, right? We can't know for sure.
Yeah.
But I think, in my opinion, that's a huge red flag that so many guys came here or had seasons that they had and then took a step back. And that's not ignoring the guys who have improved, like Adele and Shonwell. But the thing is, the young guys are supposed to get better. And the veterans shouldn't have regressed so hard, should they?
No, and that's what happened with this team this year. And again, I want to high five the ones that have gotten better, but there have been players that haven't. And we've talked a lot on this show about the reasons why. And you threw out all of the maybes. It might be too much information or it might be not enough information.
Right.
The problem is that we as fans have to pontificate about all of that stuff because this is the reality of our team. And whatever is happening in the front office and with this coaching staff is not producing results on the field. Now, we'll get into more of the discussion about the coaching specifically in our third segment, but the ultimate bad on the Angels is that they just haven't produced anything good. And then when they have players that are swinging up and to the right, like they're getting better, right? Then you have players that counterbalance that swing with not being so good. And that's the problem. You can't just get these guys at league average, and then you have these guys who are performing way above what their metrics might be because they are getting better. Now as a fan, I'm hopeful that 2026, Joe Adell doesn't regress.
Yeah.
That Joe Adell continues to be this consistent hitter, that Taylor Ward doesn't regress or Zach Neto doesn't regress. But unfortunately, with what we've learned from this team is that we have to go, well, I hope that's not the case. But in reality, there's probably going to be that situation at some point with some players next season.
Yeah. So to go back to Sydney's original question, like how are they ever going to make the playoffs when the people that are supposed to be helping them out, management, front office, honestly, I think it's a little bit of both, right? There's things that are about the front office that are bad and the management that's bad. But then you bring in guys who should at least be able to perform, OPS 100, ERA plus 100 and perform under that. Like it just is a recipe for a disaster. How do you avoid that next year? Well, you go after the good players out there, right? You go after some of those guys. Maybe it is the hitting coach who made Jorge Soler stink this year, right? So it's just there's a number of combinations, and we could sit here all day and talk about how to solve it. Obviously, I would rather just clean house if it was me and just start fresh. But they've done that already, right? And it still sucks. So. And it's not like even if they cleaned house, they'd hire the best available people that are out there. They'd hire guys that they can get at a discount, hire guys that, are, he was an assistant coach here, or, he's the Rays AA coach over here. It's not anybody who's been there before because they're too expensive for this front office to pay for and have on the payroll. So again, Sydney, thank you for the question. And I honestly think it's a combination of all those things. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up on the show, Logan O'Hoppe. Does he have ways of getting better at catching over the offseason? And will that even matter? We're going to get to that conversation coming right up.
Everydayers, you can stop paying full price for gas. You can stop leaving money behind and get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Just simply download it in the App Store or Google Play Store right now, and you can start earning cash at the pump today. And use our limited time promo code SEASON, and you're going to get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 in a year just by buying gas that you already needed for your car or your truck or whatever your transportation is. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out at any time at your bank account, PayPal account, or e-gift card for Amazon or other brands. Don't let this offer pass you by. Download the free Upside app right now and use our limited time promo code SEASON for a limited time 25% gallon bonus. Again, promo code SEASON. Offer does vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You guys know Locked On has a show for every team across every sport. In fact, if you're lost on the way to Locked On Dodgers, by the way, shout out to Alex Shiny, who is the first person ever to come up with the phrase, "This was your World Series." What a hilarious joke, Alex Shiny. I've never heard that before. And apparently he's the only one who ever thought of that. And so since you got lost on the way to Locked On Dodgers, just so you know, that exists for you. They do a great job over there. I love Harry. He's awesome. He's killing it over there. Listen, Locked On Podcast Network has put together a survey about our listeners, and they want to make your favorite podcast even better. So this is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about the advertising as well. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes the survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. And we thank you for reading that comment again. It was our World Series. That's so funny. I never heard that before.
For those that are a little slow, John's middle name is Sarcasm. So just so you know, I love when friends of other teams jump into the comments and it has nothing to do with their team, but they decide to say what everybody else has already said. John, it's FanMail Friday, and we are going to talk about He Who Shall Not Be Named. So first, Carlos will be named. He's from Riverside. He left us a voicemail about number 6. So let's hear from Carlos.
Hello, my name is Carlos A. Rivera from Riverside, California. I love listening to you guys. Quick question that should be important. Should we just pay Anthony Rendon's salary and move on, or should we just have him another year? What should the Angels do? Thank you very much for your time. Bye.
Oh, man. We got to talk about Anthony Rendon. Mike, no, Carlos, thank you for sending in that voicemail, my friend. We appreciate it. So the big question here is, can you just pay his salary and move on, or should they actually have him on the team next year? Well, I think, Mike, if you don't mind, if I'll get this started here, but I think that when we talk about Anthony Rendon, one way or another, his contract is going to be paid, right? And he's also going to count toward the luxury tax in 2026. So that's not going to go away. But do you want him around the team? I think it's the bigger question here. What do you think?
I don't want him anywhere near this team. And that is not a judgment of him. That is not a judgment of who he wants to be and the story he's telling in his life. But he is not an additive to this team. And I think they have to stop pretending that he is, whether he is personally with this team and injured or he's trying to play on the field. He is just not the same guy. And so, listen, pay him to go away would probably be the best thing. You're going to have to pay him anyway, but he's not around right now, but he is still a cloud that hangs over this team. In fact, we know that when they went to Houston earlier this year, that there was a rumor that he was going to stop by or say hi. And he probably has a pretty decent relationship with a lot of the players, and that's fine. But he is not somebody who's going to help you build the culture for the future. He is not somebody that's going to help you win on the field right now. And maybe the guy had a miraculous healing over the off season and he's doing great. I still say you're not going to get anything from him that Yoan Moncada isn't giving you this year.
Right.
And so I think defensively, Moncada, he's not been great, but he's been better probably than Rengifo. And offensively, he's got some sort of pop in his bat. It would be maybe smart to bring him back next year, depending on what they do, because they don't have a third baseman in the minor leagues that is ready to take that spot. And so I just think that it would be so unwise for the Angels to keep this guy around. You are not going to be able to squeeze anything more out of him. He's all out of juice. He's all out of pulp. There's nothing left, right? Whatever metaphor I can use, I think it would be wasteful to have him around. I don't think he's going to be helpful. And again, not a judgment of him, but what he's proven outside of that 2020 season is that he is just taking up space in the locker room and he's taking up space on the field. And so whatever you decide, pay him to go away or pay him to stay on the payroll, whatever, just don't have him around, because I think that he could be very toxic to the team that you're hoping that you're trying to build and you're hoping that they become.
Yeah, you're going to need a phantom IL stint if they don't just outright release him. And what would happen in that situation was that if they did release him and he got signed by another team, the team would have to pay the league minimum salary for the remainder and rest of that season. So with that said, if there was a way the Angels were like trying to get off the hook for at least some of that money, probably the best thing to do would be to let him go next year and hope somebody signs him for league minimum. Of course, he'd have to sign that contract if he even wants to play anymore. Mike, I had this idea the other day of like, man, I wish that maybe we could eat 75% of what's left on his salary and then trade him to the Nationals so that he can have like a reunion with them and everybody can love him. He can go hit 30 home runs in his final season. And like, that to me would be like good freaking riddance for him to go back and do that. I don't see that happening, but I think that would be, I don't know, best case scenario. I suppose best case scenario is he comes back and does that for us, but we all know he's not going to. I want to bring up something very interesting though. When we talk about Mike Trout and we talk about our frustrations with Mike Trout, right now it's because he's in a spot in the lineup that he doesn't need to be hitting in. It's also his approach at the plate where he's not seeing things and he's swinging and missing, but he's also not swinging at pitches he should be swinging. But gosh dang it, at least he's freaking out there, right? Yeah. And so I see a lot of people wrap up Rendon and Trout into the same conversation, but Trout is not a morale killer. He's not a culture killer, right? Yeah. I'm sure he loves hanging out with the young guys that are part of this core because he used to be that guy, right? When Neto got hurt and had to sit out for a few games, Mike Trout was there with his arm around him, consoling him, saying, hey, bro, it's going to be okay. You'll be back, right? And he's the first guy to do that. When he was sharing the outfield with Joe Adell earlier this season and they had a bonehead play out there, he's the first guy to say, Joe, we'll get back and we'll do it again. And so for as much as Trout has been frustrating at the plate and not being able to play the outfield like he was supposed to be, look, we can go on and on about, the way that Trout is being used or what they should and shouldn't do with him. But gosh dang it, I'm glad he's there because he's still trying to earn his paycheck, right? And he's around this young core doing the best that he can to help them. And he's also not really taken away from anybody, I guess you could say. And not that Anthony Rendon would take away from Rengifo or Moncada this year, right? But at the same time, there's a world of difference in my mind between the attitude of a player like Mike Trout versus Anthony Rendon.
This Rendon conversation is what is like epitomizes the Angels organization, that he's like a front conversation for them, right? Mm-hmm. And as I said at the top of the show, he needs to be moved to the bottom of the list or maybe even off the list. The conversation needs to be about the young players and the coaching they need and how we can surround them with talent and how it's not just Mike Trout being surrounded or Shohei Ohtani being surrounded, but we have a bunch of guys that we can surround with great talent. And so let's do that. Let's prioritize that. Let's make that happen instead of going, well, we can't do anything because this guy still is on the books. And
right.
That just is so short-sighted. And it's why Artie Moreno is an owner, but not a leader, right? Because he's not helping this team be better and he's not building a great franchise. He's just like what they tried with Rendon. He's just squeezing everything out of it that he can squeeze out of it. And now 11, 12 years, 13 years, 14 years in a row, how many years is it going to take for him to realize that that's just not going to work? And maybe he never realizes it, but that's the epitome of this upside down, backwards organization. They're prioritizing conversations and prioritizing movement based upon somebody who has not helped your team, who's taken a lot of money and is a culture killer. And you need to rearrange the pieces on the chessboard so that you can really prioritize the pieces that are helping you to be better than you were the year before.
Yeah, well said. Again, that's the short-sightedness of Artie Moreno in the front office is holding them back and hindering them from doing the things that they should do, like extending Zach Neto.
Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what their worth is, whether it's a 401k or properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, it can be nerve-wracking and you can leave money on the table. And that's where Monarch Money comes in. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life all together, all in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or even on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives like our everydayers. And if you've put off organizing your finances, and we know you have because nobody wants to do that, Monarch is for you. They're going to do the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes. You can see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com, and you're going to get half off your first year. Again, half off, 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the promo code LOCKEDONMLB.
Couple more questions here on a Fan Mail Friday. It's great to hear from our everydayers and hear their voices over the voicemail. Let's go to Andres. Here we go.
Hey, it's Andres calling from Anaheim. Long time everydayer. I'll just talk about catching. Maybe wonder for something from 2024. Do you believe Mike Scioscia got snubbed from the Baseball Hall of Fame? And also, do you think that Mike Scioscia or one of the Molina brothers can help Logan O'Hoppe learn how to catch in the off season? Thank you. Have a good day.
Andres from Anaheim, thank you so much for your voicemail. It's always great to interact with him. The first part, Mike, I'll address about Scioscia and the Hall of Fame. So the Contemporary Baseball Era Committee is one of the Hall of Fame's era committees. They look at candidates from 1980 onward, usually players, managers, umpires, executives, people who are no longer on the writers' ballot. And so they meet every 3 years. And the last time they got together, Scioscia didn't even make the ballot. This was when Jim Leland got into the Hall of Fame as a manager, and they elected him to that. But Scioscia wasn't on the ballot, so there's a lot of people who felt like that was a snub. But there's a lot of baseball people who say he'll be on there eventually. Give it another go around, give it another turn, and see if Scioscia will get voted in as a manager that way. But the second part about Logan O'Hoppe working with the Molina brothers or Mike Scioscia, what do you think?
First of all, it would be great if Logan did that. And I think it's going to have to be something that happens in the off season. And they would have to have a relationship and something needed to be set up. I'm sure that could take place. But here's the thing that we have to go back to. Logan's always been trying to get better and to listen and to learn. We've had numerous segments about that, which is what we appreciate about Logan O'Hoppe and why you and I, at least, don't dump on him or get really mad at him, because he's kind of in that Jared Walsh category. Dude's trying, dude's hustling, dude's trying to make it work, right? When Walshy was really struggling, we still rooted for him because you could tell he was really trying to be better. O'Hoppe is doing the exact same thing, but you have to also consider there's a lot of information that has been thrown at him. I think what O'Hoppe needs to do this offseason is he needs to have a strategy. And not just like, hey, do this and then maybe do this. And there needs to be a strategy. Hey, be more flexible. Maybe that's it, right? Be more flexible in your body and in your arms. I'm throwing out an example.
Do some Pilates, baby.
Right. I mean, but that's what I'm saying. It needs to be one thing that you need to work on, right? And I'm of the opinion that this offseason will be a growing offseason for Logan O'Hoppe. And I think that we'll see a better version of him next year, because this year has been adjust. And I know baseball is about adjustments, but his adjustments have been, oh, you're left-handed? Okay, we need you to try to be right-handed. I mean, it's been dramatic.
It's been every other week too, with O'Hoppe. Like, oh, try one knee. Oh, go back to a crouch. Oh, maybe, it's frustrating as a fan to I have to go through that.
Those are huge adjustments, right? Those are huge pieces. I appreciate that he's doing that, but I think he has to have a strategy on what he does. But one thing we have to consider too, John, is next year the challenge system is going to come into play. So some of the numbers that are really bad with Logan O'Hoppe, stealing strikes, top of the corner, those types of things, that possibly goes away, right?
Yeah, it might not even matter next year, considering they can challenge those calls of what's a strike and what's not. And honestly, I brought this up on the show before, Mike. I think that's going to impact how the umpire calls a game and what the umpire does in terms of, hey, you've sucked for the first 5 innings, but you've had like 9 overturned calls. What are you going to do now? And see if that actually influences them. But again, going back to Logan O'Hoppe, I hope that he finds somebody and that he takes one approach, that he gets one coach over the offseason, whatever it takes. I think he needs to figure out his game on his own and get back to what he does best and whatever he's comfortable with, because as much as he's been trying and working and listening to people, man, I think it's too much information for him. Let the guy be the guy that he is, and hopefully he can find somebody that coaches over this offseason to work with him. Final question, Mike. Steve G on YouTube said, John and Mike, my question is, what are your concerns about this coaching staff, and what changes would you do, if any? You want to start?
But we hit really hard on the fact that we get coaches that don't have the experience and long enough experience to even evaluate their experience, right? And I get that sometimes you just got to give young guys an opportunity, but it just feels like an Artie Moreno move to do things on the cheap. Remember that there was supposed to be a bench coach when Ron Washington started that they were
Clint Hurdle.
It was Clint Hurdle. That's right. And they couldn't afford Clint Hurdle, right? And to have Clint Hurdle on this bench rather than maybe a Ray Montgomery, Clint would be the manager right now. And Clint Hurdle has a proven track record. Yeah. And that's the thing. We need a proven track record. This doesn't mean that I'm down on Barry Enright or others, but I think we need some proven track records to come in, or guys that are coming in and understand baseball and know how to implement some of the metrics and analytics from behind the scenes instead of just saying, hey, here's how it works. They need guys that come in and understand how baseball works and helping these guys to be better. I think second layer to that, John, is these coaches need players that are MLB ready. And the truth is that they've had to deal with a lot of pitchers and a lot of players who are just not MLB ready, or they're not even MLB mediocre. And that's the problem with some of the blowups that we've seen recently. The issue with Jack Kahanowitz is that he did not get enough time this season in AAA. He was the exact same pitcher in AAA than he was at the bigs, and they're moving him up and down, and he's not able to work on stuff. And his first start in AAA, he changed some things, still walked a lot of guys, but had a pretty good start. And then he was back up again, right? Like, one thing's not going to change everything. I think the coaching staff really needs the support of the front office. And what I mean by that is they need time to really work with these guys instead of rushing them up and rushing them down and flipping them around and figuring out this and figuring out that. And I think that they're probably feeling some of the pressure. That's not to excuse the coaches or the players' performance, but I do think that they're in a pressure cooker trying to figure things out. And that's what happens when you're in this Angel organization. Everybody's got to be up now. We got to get this guy. Brender's got to be there. He's got to be our ace. We got to get him up now. And that's the downside to rushing some of these players to the major leagues.
Yeah, they're hitting the fast forward button like in Spaceballs. When will then be now? Soon, sir.
Soon, sir. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Angels on YouTube so you don't miss any of this great Halo content, including the best postcast in the business with Gavin Carlson. He's live after every game right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.
Hey, give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Super Halo Bros. Whether you're watching or listening, come on over to today's show on YouTube, get in the comments section, hit that like and subscribe button while you're there as well. Mike, we got a weird 4-game set, a wraparound weekend series, and it ends on Labor Day. What are we talking about on Monday?
Yeah, we're going to recap and give you the takeaways from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday's game, and then we'll get you ready for Monday's game. John, it's the Astros, and the Angels have an opportunity to at least slow them down and maybe build some momentum towards the end of the year, not making the playoffs. We all know that. And also to get out of freaking last place. And so we've got some takeaways. You're going to want to be here on Monday for that, and we'll get you ready for Monday night's game as well against the Astros. And that's happening on Monday on Locked On Angels.
All right, looking forward to that conversation. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Have a great weekend, everybody. Have a great holiday weekend, and we'll see you back here on Monday.
Alex Shiny, welcome to the show, bro.
He's a Pokemon, apparently.